Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full-on follow-along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show. Hey, what's going on? So we're here with my good friend Luka, and we're actually at his gym, Vigor Ground, here in Renton, Washington, and we're going to ask him what LivingFit is, and then we're going to get into some nitty-gritty, I am sure. This is real-life stuff.
Right, it's going to go all over the place. It's going to go all over the place. I'm letting you know right now.
Try to find us. We're going to be on different rabbit trails and whatnot. My name is Guyett.
Martinez with LivingFit.
And Luka Hocevar.
And yeah, let's tell everybody about you. Like, I don't think they realize how much of a specimen Luka is.
Man, it's a very loaded question, right? This is one of those. I'm gonna. Good. I've been working really hard to cut this down to like a. Here's
What's
Luka
your elevator
Hocevar.
pitch on?
Yeah, it's horrible. It's an hour long. No, but look. At the end of the day, like if I'm a coach. Like I absolutely, my background is I grew up in Yugoslavia, and which ended up being Slovenia after the war. Obviously, moved around a lot. I moved to London when I was 7 years old. We came back when I was 11. Basketball was a huge part of my life. Honestly, from age about 9 or 10, that was my life. And that's why I played all the time, everything from, juniors to high school to college, then eventually to pros. And it is, it really did. I say basketball saved my life, and it did. I was a knucklehead kid from age 12 to, some would say even now. But let's just say I was doing a lot of stupid shit. A lot, yeah. Put it this way, I'm a knucklehead in a lot better ways now. But I was in organized crime for a long time. I kind of went to school. But really, I just played ball and did dumb stuff in the streets a lot. And ball really did take me away from that. It's when I decided to go play college basketball. Was in upstate New York 2 years, played junior college, and I went to Southern Virginia, played ball there. Then I went overseas and played pro in Ukraine, Slovenia, even NBA Summer Pro League. And that, but there was always this really kind of underlying toe of fitness. And this is kind of where this plays in. When I was about 14 years old, my mom, she worked at the bank, and my dad stayed in London. When we came back, he lost his job, but kind of kept hustling to start a business there. So we came back. We couldn't afford living there. And my mom went back to work at the bank, and with her friend, she opened up the gym. It was like about 1,500 square feet. It was a membership gym, but up in the top floor of this partisan building. So in, Europe, you have, especially Eastern Europe, you have a lot of this physical culture. And so I guess the whole building had like basketball courts inside, gymnastic stuff. What was crazy is at the bottom of that building was 2 world champions in gymnastics. One guy's name is Ljubljana, like 5-time like world champion in the Olympics, best of the best. This little, I shit you not, probably like 500 square foot room, maybe smaller, and that's where they train. And, they'd come up, train at the gym. One of the powerlifting champions of Slovenia trained at the gym. So I had like these really awesome mentors in lifting, and some other, I would say, athletes there. They show me how to lift and stuff, and I'm 14 years old, so I'm starting to lift and pretty damn insecure, I'm like the short kid on the basketball court. Nobody wants to fucking pick me, should I say like at 12, 13, that was the case. I started getting better, but lifting weights was, it really made me go, like, first of all, I got stronger. I could jump higher. I put on some muscle mass, and like I could see it on the court. I was like, man, like this guy can't move me, right? So it gave me this, like, man, this lifting thing is a real thing, right? So it started giving me confidence. Really got into it. So my mom would work half the day at the bank and then go work at the gym. Her friend would run the mornings. So I'd always basically, go to school, kind of, do my basketball practices, go at the gym before and after. And then that became a thing. And then I got our team back then, Janče, we started training there as a team. And so, that was kind of the beginning of this kind of I would say my fitness, strength, and conditioning story. And because I was getting results, I started geeking out on everything. I don't know if you guys remember, you fucking remember Air Alert? Error Alert was like this plyometric program, which is horrible. Like if we looked at science today, it would be like, this is the worst thing you could ever do. But, it's like, for me, I was like, yo, I got to jump higher, I got to dunk, because I wasn't like crazy genetically gifted. And so I get Error Alert 1 and 2, and every day I'm like doing my plyos.
Did you wear those shoes?
I did wear those shoes too. Dude, I would do, listen,
I remember
if
those
you
in the
told
ads,
me,
in like the East Bay,
I'm telling you right now, up until like maybe even, yesterday, but like in those teenage years at 25, if you told me like you need to eat the Concept 2 rower, and if you eat the Concept 2 rower bit by bit, like you put on muscle and jump higher, dude, I'm putting some ketchup on that shit and we're going, and so, but I was like,
well, hold on. I want to pause there. I want to go off on a rabbit trail.
Okay, cool.
Because this is probably the greatest thing that I personally admire about you. So, and I'll start it with an Instagram message, and we've had this conversation more than once, but I'm like, have you heard of this guy like James Clear? Talk about Atomic Habits. You're like, yeah, I took his program. I read his book 80 times. I took his program. We went and flew to Paris. We climbed the Eiffel Tower together. I'm the godfather of his daughter.
He's got a room named after me.
Like when you do, like I try to tell people like, oh, when I do something, I dive in head first. I go to the bottom of the pool. You dive in head first and you go through the drain, bro. Like
I try to come out on the other side.
Yeah, and it seems like that's been working for you, even if you had to eat a Concept 2 rower in your day.
Sometimes it doesn't work for me. I've gone down the wrong routes of it, but I do think like, look, to piggyback kind of on what you're saying there, like this is such a simple thing, but it is super profound. Like think about this, right? Like I don't think when I was a kid, like people didn't say like you're super smart, but they would say like you're crafty, and to be able to learn anything, like if you can read and learn, you can learn anything that anybody's ever learned. Like isn't that fucking insanely amazing, right? Like and once I got that, because there's one thing me saying it, and there's another thing for somebody to go like, oh, no, I get what you're saying. And so to me, because like in school, I didn't like reading books. In Slovenia, like Yugoslavia, you had to, like we were reading Dostoevsky in like 7th grade, and it's like, then write an essay, waiting for Godot, you're like, fuck, like, because you didn't buy into it as much and enjoy it. But then when I was able to read like, hey, listen, like this is what plyometrics are, and like here's all these different ways that you can build elasticity and strength and explosiveness, and I want to learn that, right? Like, you start going like, holy shit, so I learned this, and then I go do it, and then I get better, right? And it gives you this feedback loop. And so for me, fitness and strength and conditioning was the first feedback loop that gave me this whole like, oh, look, whatever methodology, depth jumps, you know what I mean? Whatever. And it's like, and you do it, and you're like, holy shit, like I am jumping. I couldn't touch the rim. I can touch the rim, right? And to be like, and I just carry that over, over time, obviously, into eventually my personal life, how to be a better man, how to be a better business, owner, leader, in marketing and sales and whatever. But the idea, like just this idea around that, like, hey, there's people that have done this and are the best in the world at it. And they were amazing enough to like write a book or do a course, and the book, you buy it for $20. And people, it's so crazy to me. Like people are like, oh my God, man, books are so expensive. I'm like, what? Like $20 to learn.
You learn his whole program.
3 decades of this person's like, which process, and let's say this dude was in the lab. You know what I mean? Like killing himself, dying, making like base salary, and then he wrote a book on everything he learned for $20. And you go through it in like 3 days, and you learn it, and now you have the chance to apply it.
Well, you go through it in 3 days.
Well,
it's different.
In a month, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's like that to me was like crazy, right? Like to just be, and then of course now as media and now we have courses and live events and like you guys do. Like to me it's so crazy. Like I don't ever understand like this course is $500 or $700 or $300 and it's, but like man, like you're getting like this person that spent 10,000 hours, 20, 30,000 hours, however many hours mastering their craft, and sure you won't know what they know, but you're gonna accelerate your learning so drastically.
Yeah.
Like that to me is, to this day, is crazy, right? Because I'll take things on, and I'm comfortable saying I don't know stuff, cause I'd rather be wrong and get better than be right and stay the same, And so, like, I've had situations where people would come and go, like, hey, like, I'm this type of athlete.
Did you note that? Did you write that down?
Dude,
I didn't write that down. Write it down.
I wrote that down.
Write it down. Remember it.
Press it on Twitter.
I am quoting that. I am going to be posting that.
It's true, right? I mean, the ego is the thing that stops you, because it's like, fuck, man, like, I'm supposed to be this really, knowledgeable guy, and I don't know something. But I think that people respect and trust you when you go, like, I don't know. I'll give you a story. Like, I have a million stories, obviously, which I've had an interesting life. But the first person that came to me that was this lady that, like, we knew each other through mutual friends, and she was a mom of 4, and then she wanted to do a physique contest. Never done it before in her life, right? And she's shopping around a little bit, which is normal. Like, hey, who's going to be the best person for me? And like, they told her, hey, Luka's really good at training, right? She's really good at getting results and training athletes and getting people to look better. And she went around and did some bodybuilding coaches and physique coaches in this area, and was like, and everybody was like, because she would say, well, I'm going to this guy and I'm talking to that guy, and everybody was like, that guy doesn't know shit. He's never done bodybuilding comps and physique comps. He fucking, like, they're just talking shit about me, like, hard, right? And it come to me, I was like, well, I've never really done that, but, like, man, like, I just understand training, and, like, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to fucking, like really, like, map this shit out, and then we'll make a plan. And, like, here's what I don't believe. I don't think you should do hours and hours of cardio. You got a family. Like, this is not probably, like, do you love doing that? It's like, no. Okay, cool. Then we won't do that. Like nutrition, well, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach. And I was like, well, if you feel like those guys are better, cool, man. Like, this is what I do. This is where we'd go. Like, I'd map out what I do. And she was like, okay, cool. And, like, I legit went home, and, like, for 5 days, I spent probably another 4 or 5 hours a night just, like, going through fucking everything, because I just knew who the best people were at that I trusted. And I came back on Monday with a plan, She ended up going with me in 9 weeks. She lost 28 pounds and, like, won the physique comp. Like, that was the thing. Like, it was like never done it before. Won. And then it was like, oh shit. Then I started getting some more clients in that area. But I was legitimately like, well, look, I was like, here's what I believe. I don't know some things, but I'm going to dig into it, and and I'll do my absolute best. But, like, look, principles are principles, science is science, and, like, you can have somebody tell you X, Y, Z. But I'm going to give you the why behind it. Like, I'll explain it to you, right? And to this day, I still do that, right? I mean, like, I obsessively study a lot of things, but I'm more than, like, if you came and said, hey, listen, dude, like, can you help me out with X? I'd be like, well, here's my experience, here's what I know. But if a company hired me, dude, like, over the weekend, I'm doing 40 hours of studying, and I'm showing up on Monday, and I'm fucking ready, like, and just to be able to understand that, like, that we live in a world, right, like, that, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, like, none of this was available, and I'm a big fan. I do a lot of stuff with kids in inner city schools, and, like, I'm about to be on the board of something called Badges and Barbells, which is basically, like, police officers that do strength and conditioning in schools, and we're partnering up and doing some pretty exciting stuff. But I'm very, purposeful about helping kids that were knuckleheads like me help choose a different path, because it's happened to me. I went that route. And so my story, like, I've gone to schools and I talk, and there's always somebody that goes like, man, but you don't understand. First of all, like, look, man, I came up in communism, let me tell you something.
Smidgen of experience.
Yeah, but I said, so I'll flip the table and I go, hey, listen, man, what's your favorite rap song? What's your favorite? And everybody's like, yo, it's the, they start blurting out like that. Man, show me the video, right? And they pull out their phones, because fucking everybody has a phone. Right? I'm like, oh, that's dope. Okay, cool. What did you say that you wanted to do? You wanted to be great at, like, creative digital stuff, like video stuff? All right. YouTube. How to make a dope-ass video. 10,000 results. Like, what does this cost you? Like, instead of doing whatever the hell you're doing, like, you can go on this phone right now and for free study, like, how to create the dope-ass videos. And you could go to a business and go like, hey, listen, man, like, I'll make videos for you for free for a month, and for you, and for you, and for you, and for you, and you do a great job, and they hire you, right? Like, tell me when could you do that? When? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and, like, I'm not dumb in a sense of, like, that I understand that it's a complex problem, like environments, how they trigger behaviors, and, living in certain areas. But, like, I've been in, like, really, like, I've been in third world countries a lot, like, and, it gives you comparison that, like, we here in America, like, and like I said, I consider myself, definitely part American, right? Like, living here, and I'm grateful for it. That, the worst here, as far as, like, what we have available as a resource, is so far beyond 99% of the world, right? Like, and it's just, it really is like how the frame of how we look at the world determines, the direction that we go in. And so for me, one of my goals, whether it's clients in the gym or whether it's mentoring kids or, the business coaching that I do, I mean, first thing is like helping somebody see the world in a different way, because I can give you every tactic. Like, I can give you the course, but if you believe that, like, well, no, because I'm from the hood, and like there's no way that I can achieve X, Y, Z, right? Well, your belief system is going to drive your behaviors, and that's that, right? Like, but if you go like, maybe this dude like has got something on it, and I do speak from a place that like I did, when I was 16, 17 years old, like, I mean, I legitimately could have, my insanity and obsessiveness of doing stuff could have been like, all right, fucking, I'm going to be Slovenia Tony Montana, I say that jokingly, but you put your energy and focus wherever you put it, and I just chose, I was like, man, I love basketball. And I started too, like, I started running into so many serious problems,
was there ever a time where you sat down after just getting into some bullshit or whatever, and you were like, fast forwarded to 5 years, 10 years,
like
20 years.
Come to Jesus moments?
I'm either gonna,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be dead or I'm gonna be in prison.
You know what's interesting though? Like, people say, like, I had those moments, but it's the thing about it is that, like, that you'd think that like it would snap.
No.
And it's like after that day, everything would be fine.
You would hope.
But it's not. What it gave me a snippet, like, and I can, like, I don't mind sharing this stuff, man. I've shared it enough, and I think it's important for people to know. But I mean, one is like, I've had cases of, like, for a year and a half, like, my phone was tapped, by police, not because of me, but because of somebody else that I was doing stuff with, and we're talking like big cases and stuff like that, and then not even like I would say the police, but it was also like other drug dealers, like you start running into problems with everything. I'm just talking serious stuff, like life or death type stuff, and even like I remember even before going into my junior year of college, like, this is how long this stuff would go, I was stopped, and I had, let's just say, a lot of paraphernalia on me that would put me away in Slovenia, not for a long time, but I would never be able to come back here, and I was afterwards, and like, luckily, nothing happened. Didn't find it. I was sitting there in the car for 2 hours, just like, this has to stop, and it did, but it's like incrementally, right? Like, that's how change doesn't usually happen, like how people, like, in the movies, like, most of the time, it's not like you had this, massive thing happen and all of a sudden everything changed. You know what a great example? I think I heard Gary Vee say this, like, most people, here's what happens. You have, like, you ever been in that case where, like, you're driving, but you're driving probably too fast, and you spot, like, the police officer behind you, and you're like, oh shit, and you start slowing down, and then, like, they drive by you, and you're like, and for the next 4 to 5 minutes,
I'm never going to speed again.
Yeah, for the next 4 to 5 minutes, like, that's how you drive. Yeah. And then you fucking go back and do whatever.
Right.
And I say, listen, I always try to tell a story at the end of our team trainings and small groups and stuff, something that inspires and creates a frame for people. And I said, look, most of you, me too sometimes, are living our lives like this shit. Somebody in your family passes away, and it gives you this moment of like, fuck. You're more grateful, and and then you call your mom, and you call your brother you've had an argument with for 2 years and didn't talk to, and and then it's like you do it for a little bit, and then it goes back.
Yeah.
Or like I said, I used to, like, man, I did so much dirt when I was a teenager that, like, if a cop was within a 100-yard radius, I'd be like, fucking shit, because you're guilty, like, and you correct, and then you go back to it. And so I think that's what's so important, though, man, is like to understand, like, how does that really, really shift your behavior? And for me, it was like, it shifted it a little bit, and then a little bit, and a little bit. And, I can't say that, I was like those, and I had, I would say I paid the price a lot of times for the things that I did, and thankfully learned from them and grew from them. So when I look back, I still always have some people that go like, man, like, you talk about it, like, are you proud of it? I'm like, no, I'm not proud of that. Like, but would I change it? I probably not. I mean, it's taught me more than I could have ever learned from anything else. Have a different viewpoint, and when I do go talk to these kids, I'm like, hey, let me tell you a story. Like, I I do get it. You know what I mean? Like, and because of that, a lot of times they'll listen, you know, because they're like, oh shit, like, okay, well, he actually has done this and lived this, so I can connect to that, you know? And we just have to be careful as human beings, like, because there's stuff all around us that's telling us this stuff, right? Like, whether it's, you know, I don't know, you're in a relationship and you're just not showing up the way that honestly the other person deserves, and something happens, you know, and rocks your world, and you fucking go back to doing it the same way. Or it's going to the doctor's like, hey, listen, like, you're on the verge of type 2 diabetes, like, you got to change your lifestyle. You know, and you're like, oh no, you know, and you do a little bit of something and you go back to what you were doing. And, you know, and it could be something else, like I said, a cop situation, or, you know, you get him, you know, you're 17 and you go to juvie, but you still don't have a record, right? And you have an opportunity to change it up. Like, it's all around us, you know what I mean? Like, and so I feel like it's very, very important that, you know, and I'm glad we went off a tangent, because it does, this is the way that I like to communicate and bring up things I feel are important, is that surrounding yourself in environments that help shape you in a way like that you want to be shaped. Meaning, who do you want to become, right? So if I'm surrounded by you guys and you guys care for me, and you go like, yo, Luke, man, like, when, you know, we went out and you had some drinks and you started behaving like, man, real bad, dude, like, it's not who you are. Like, I really think you need to check into this, right? Like, that's great to have people around you to be like, we care enough about you to do that, right? Or listen, you know, it's proven science that, like, we as human beings, we belong to tribes, we put ourselves in tribes, and we aspire to have the same I would say behaviors of the tribe, right? Because we're so tribal that, like, if you guys are like, you know, we come together and it's like, Marcus is like, yo, I just read these 2 books this month, and you're like, yeah, man, I read these 2, let's talk about them. And I'm like, fuck, I haven't read a book since 98, right? All of a sudden, you start, and if you keep showing up, all of a sudden you're like, man, maybe I'm going to read a book too, man. I can't keep showing up not reading a book. These guys I look up to them. They're part of my tribe, and they're doing this, right? Now, if you show up in a tribe, which is what I was doing from when I was, you know, part of my tribe was like, hey, listen, guys, let's go rob cars, steal cars, you know, rob people, do this, that, and then it got, you know, that's, you know, man, I don't want them to think I'm a pussy. I don't want them to, right? Like, so you aspire to that. Yeah. So, you know, we choose our environments, and then our environments shape us, you know, and so people have a lot more control of, you know, environments. And, you know, this is a perfect example. I actually love that. Like, you know, if you guys can't hear something, or you're hearing the voice, like,
people walk by,
just know this is real world shit right now.
If you turn around, it's
because it's like we got training going on, but it's like, this is a real world. Like, when people come here, you can't come to Vigor and not work hard, because everybody from the 73-year-old Susan to the kid wanting to be better in high school to the Major League Baseball guy that's a pro making tens of millions, like, everybody's putting in work. Everybody, and the thing is, nobody's judging. It's just like, yo, what's going on? Like, high-fiving, supporting. And so, like, you start being like, man, like, that guy's really working hard. They're older than me. Like, I should, man, all right, I'm going to work hard. Right? Like,
why do you think that? I mean, just based off of the culture that you've already created, based off of what you already do, like, we all see that. Like you said, like, you personally, like, you're so inspired. I'm personally inspired by you, just by how much you just dive into things. You go all in, and that's spreading in everything you do. You created your environment, and they're getting their environment based off of what you've done for them.
And I think that, you know, we talked about this at lunch, like, leadership, you know, it starts with you. And, like, I'm, you know, first of all, I used to be the person that would always be, I think fitness is very like that though, right? Like, don't, you know, like, you're the head of whatever. Don't, you know, be perfect. Don't show people your strength. I just wrote an email about how my apartment is like a fucking, like, bomb went off in it, you know, and I had to tell the truth to myself about how messy it is, and it's altering my life, but I kept bullshitting myself around it, right? Like, you know, that goes out to thousands of people, and then I get these emails like, oh man, like, your apartment's a shit. I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm not like, I'm so, you know, there's stuff in my life that I have to work on and need people to keep me accountable to it and whatnot, right? But we, like, you cannot, how do you inspire something by not living it? Like, it's completely, you know, and there's a lot of this where it's like, you go and you learn something, you're like, hey man, let me tell you about this, right? It's cool, but, like, yo, you know what's more inspiring? Let me see you live it. Like, don't even tell me about it. Like, I'm around you, and it's like, man, I've seen this guy train 40 times, and he's fucking, like, always just, like, so zoned in and always pushing everybody into it, right? I see this guy's always reading. He's always opening the door for the old lady. He high fives everybody. He's writing appreciation cards. Man, the way he treats his kids, like he's not with them like all day long, but when he is, man, they're his world, right? Like, and if I'm seeing that, like that's the lesson. You know what I mean? Like versus, I mean, I can tell you how many people, and I used to do this shit back in the day too, where I'm like, sitting there like, let me tell you about how you should be in your relationship. And here I am being a shithead, and cheating and like messing my whole, my marriage up, what I mean? And I've done that, and I'm not afraid to say that anymore. I mean, that was very, very painful, but that taught me a lesson, right? Like, but like, I'm going to learn from seeing you, because if your video doesn't match your audio, and it's like, you're telling me something, but that's your audio and your video is like, these don't go together, dude. People instantly go like, and we live in this world right now. Social media is like, dude, you just see the audio, like, and obviously there's video too, but I'm saying video being real time, if I put a camera 24/7, yeah, exactly.
It's the highlight reel.
It's the highlight reel, right? Like, and it's like, and I mean, I understand it from a certain perspective, man, but like, I'm even like even with our coaching and stuff, like I like to really share as much of me as possible, because I want people to understand that like it's really easy to beat yourself up. Yeah. This guy's really got to figure it out. I'm like, look, I figured out some shit for sure, but let me also show you what I haven't figured out yet, And like and as I'm figuring it out, I'm going to share it with you, And I might be XYZ steps ahead of you, but like you can do this too, you know what I mean? Like versus, I mean, some of the biggest, gurus and stuff, like, have honestly just their life is a ramshackle. Yeah. I said I'm going to use a new word today when I talk, so look that up.
You say that.
So speaking of words, and we're obviously, so we're a part of Living.Fit or LivingFit, and like the centerpiece of all of these podcasts, the centerpiece of all these audios or videos or whatever format you're listening or watching this in is what is LivingFit. And I feel like, I mean, we just got a lesson in that, right? We just got a Luka lecture on LivingFit, but let's maybe distill it or drill it down. Because I mean, it sounded, I was just hearing that, like, in the last couple of things that you were saying, because fitness is like the ability to get something done, right? Or whatever. And it's kind of this like weird, abstract, ether, term or whatever. And then living is obviously things are alive. So that's okay, cool. But what is that? Like, what would that be to you if you were to come up to that? Like, how would you buttress that or support that or not have it be a ramshackle?
Okay.
I tried.
I just want to yell that out when I'm driving. Ramshackle.
Listen, I'm probably going to find another word to use that's going to make you go look it up in the dictionary to make this more fun. But I think, living fit, like, I think that you could call it life fitness, right? Like, I think if you say fitness and living fit, people automatically think about the physical aspect of it. But we know that it's all, like, for instance, if you're stressed out of your mind and emotionally like crushed, right? Are you healthy? No, because that's going to lead to overeating, drugs, some type of sedation technique, right?
Or compensation.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're training all the time and, beating yourself up too much, you're going to have joint pain, health issues. That's going to lead to something, right? So it's like, to me, what is being fit? Like, wholly fit, like as a whole. And we know mental, emotional, and physical are interconnected. Now, this is the thing I like to have people think about, because like 15 years ago, like you asked me about fitness, I'm like, well, listen, it's like you got to be strong, you got to apply force, your elasticity's got to be great, and by the way, you got to train all your energy systems.
That's true.
Which is all true, by the way,
true.
All true. Did you know that there was three anaerobic? There's an anaerobic, lactic, anaerobic, glycolytic, and an aerobic, right? It's like,
now you're talking my language.
Yes, yeah, baby. but I mean, so which in the physical realm, like I love that. Like hey man, like be strong, be explosive, be conditioned, move well, like have a capacity, don't overtrain, because you're going to need those joints for a long time, blah, 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 right? Like, and like, I mean, I could dive into that for a month straight talking about it, but I do also want to focus on the things that people don't think about. Because if I say weightlifting to you, everybody's going to, I mean, the thing is, you're going to be like, okay, cool, whatever, the deadlifting, Olympic weightlifting, like, I know, it's lifting weight, I'm going to get stronger.
Been there, done that, got the t-shirt, whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right? But what about mental weightlifting? What about emotional weightlifting? What about spiritual weightlifting? Whatever it is that your belief is in that, right? Like, but the thing is, like, you know, the reason why I put it in that pocket is because if I say physical weightlifting, you go like, oh, cool. Well, listen, I went and sprinted hills. I went to the gym and I lifted weights, right? Okay, cool. What about your mental weightlifting? And it's like, what do you mean? Well, when did you exercise, like, and lift your mental weights? Reading a book, journaling, you know what I mean? Doing exercises like positive focus. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, right? Yeah. But like reframing situations, you know, asking yourself questions that lead you into the better direction. Mental weightlifting. Yeah. You know, you have emotional weightlifting, which is same thing. We could go back to like journaling, but like being able to not suppress emotions, but be able to control them from a sense of like meditate, take 5 breaths.
Well, dude, even like what you're saying, like realizing that your environment sucks. Finding a better environment and putting yourself in that.
Correct.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Like, you know that you're going to be...
That's as emotional weightlifting as you can get.
Right?
Absolutely.
Remove toxic people.
And too, like, you know, emotional weightlifting is like being able to, like, you know, I always say, like, I mean, this kind of gets deep and stuff, and it's not like, you know, hey guys, let's all take 4 grams of mushrooms and see where it takes us right now. Which
that's the after hours.
Which I also have done, but it's another story for another day. But it is like, how do you separate yourself from your, like, because hey, are the thoughts in your head you? No, they're not. No. Right? Like, they're not. They're just thoughts, right? Like, they're not true. And to be able to, like, when you go like, man, what did that bitch do to me? Like, it's like, hey, let's not use, like, that's not you. That's just your thoughts.
And you're reacting to it. You're giving so much
Separate yourself. Like, become the observer that you are of these thoughts. Because that's how you can go like, hey, listen, like, man, yeah, that person hurt me. And now I'm, like, very, very hurt. And now I want to do some other, because hurt people, right? Like, but being able to step back and go like, oh, Luka's jealous. Oh, Luka's hurt. You know what I mean? Like, that's training. That's emotional training, man. Like, you know, but people don't, like, you don't, you know, in your calendar you have, I'm going to do my lower body training session on Monday, right? But in your calendar you don't have like, I'm going to do some emotional weightlifting, right? But you probably should, you know, and I can attest that training my mental and emotional strength, right, has been one of the greatest gifts and advantages and strengths, you know what I mean, in my life, and being able to, you know, be able to go like, hey, look, man, like, this person's saying I might be wrong. I need to listen to them. Like, empathy, like stepping back and like, hey, let me consider that, like, they're right and I'm wrong, you know, and let me make this right. Let me apologize. Let me work on, you know, I like, we just had this, our business mastermind, and it's funny because, like, sometimes half of it has got nothing to do with strategic tactical stuff. We're just getting people out of their head, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm like, if you become a better communicator like this on video and writing emails, but in like face-to-face communication and having hard conversations, that's a superpower. And I think it's like, it's not even a thing that would be nice to have. It's essential. It's essential. Like, I think for men even more so. And to be able to go like, hey, Marcus, you know, like, here's this thing that happened, this factual thing that happened. Here's how I feel about it. You know, like, man, let's talk about this because I was hurt by this, right? Like, man, how much of that happens? Yeah. It doesn't. Like, people passive aggressively, they talk shit, they disconnect, they do whatever, right?
Isolate, run away.
Exactly. Yeah, isolate, run away, get angry, so on and so forth. And so, like, I'm like, well, how much are you working on this? I said, listen, if you're a basketball player and the team knows, like, man, Luka's super strong on his right hand and I can drive to the bucket and pull off the right hand, but my left is, like, shitty, right? Just make him go left. I'm dead.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? Okay, so what do I have to do now? Well, listen, I got to get in the gym and start working my left hand, like in and outs and pull-up jumpers and floaters and, like, whatever, right? Until the team's like, well, fuck that. You can't make him go left now because he's good with his left, right? Yeah. But I had to spend hours in the gym deliberately practicing that. Yeah. Right? Now, it's so weird because when it comes to communication and crucial conversations and hard conversations amongst people and men and, you know, leaders of their team, right, and clients, and you go, hey, listen, man, when did you practice your communication? And people just look at you like you're crazy, you know, like no, well, you got to learn a better way, and then you got to go and do it and practice it, like a little chunk of it, like maybe ask a better question or listen a little bit more or shut up when you're going to talk. And then you'll recognize that works. And you'll go like, okay, let me practice it a little bit more. Because
your unconscious incompetence is not working.
Correct.
You need
absolutely.
Conscious incompetence.
You need conscious incompetence.
Then conscious competent, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That whole trajectory.
And the thing is like, and so you're basically training that muscle. And you train that muscle and you realize that, like, man, you have all the info and knowledge to make the things work. but you had a skill set that was so lacking that you just couldn't communicate, right? And these are all part of, like, I think communication fits both into emotional and mental weightlifting, right? I mean, emotional because, like I said, our whole lives are basically all around communication. If we're in a intimate relationship, communication, right, makes or breaks things many a times, right? If I'm a leader of here we have a team of 9 now, and then I have another business with a partner, and I have another business with, you know what I mean? Like, I have to communicate with my team and my partners, and then with clients, and then with the marketplace, right? Like, and so you kids with communication, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I hope when you're watching this that you're like, fuck, I hope so. I hope that you're like, whoops, this month I worked on it exactly 0, you know what I mean? Like, and to be like, oh shit, but it's one of the most important skills that you possess, and and because majority of I would say, let's just say that a majority of misunderstandings happen because there's a fact, and then you didn't really figure out what the person meant. You just assume. So there's a fact and there's a layer of assumptions, which creates a layer of judgments, right? And it's just a narrative in your mind.
And uncommunicated expectations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that just drives this whole thing. And you think about that
relationship, and now you're in a shitty
environment. Correct. and if you talk to both people, they would tell this one story. This person told another story and be like, you guys are actually pretty close to being on the same page. Yeah. You just never communicated it, or you didn't know how to communicate it, right? And so you look at that and you go like, what do we do in coaching? Communication. Coaching cues, external, internal, analogies, similes, like you name it, right? Like, man, like I have books on analogies and similes, and I say shit like, me and Farouja always, fuck around. We'll say, we'll find new words that you're like, what the hell does that mean? I'll pull it up, and then I will start using it. But because language and words are, man, it's like, it's a bridge, it's a bridge to getting us together. You know what I mean? Like, or sometimes it's a bridge to like, hey, you don't belong here. That's fine too. Love your pieces. Like,
but the thing is, they will probably do so much better
correct
somewhere else.
Correct.
You know and you will do so much better with them somewhere else.
Because it was solved. It was like the better you communicate, the faster you find out. Like, hey, look, man, like, you're awesome. You're probably not a good fit for here. I'm not a good fit for you. Yeah. But let me call somebody, and you know what I mean? Like, and we have a great relationship. Versus, it's like I would say, communication that never went, like, nobody was heard, or it wasn't it was a misunderstanding, or it was like untold narratives, you know what I mean? Like, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, fuck that guy, he's a horrible guy, and then you have this, and I know that from experience, because I fucked up a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and still do, but less and less and less, right? And the thing is, and communication has become like this superpower, and I'm so intrigued by it and like studying it, and like, I mean, to a degree that this is where it becomes, and our guys are awesome, like our group is awesome. They came and were like, yo, like, that was a huge revelation for me. Like, I mean, you slapped me in the face with a story, but like, I realized I just don't work on it. I want to get like, I tell myself, I don't know why I'm not getting better in this area, but I put no time in. And it's like, if you came to somebody and said, coach, I really want to shoot that left floater, I want to be really good at it. It's like, okay, cool. Well, this last month, how much have you worked on it? Well, I haven't. Like, if you say that out loud, you're kind of like, damn, okay, that's stupid, right? Like, right? Oops. And we're like, our ego just gets in the way of these things, and I feel like, these revelate, like, it goes back to this whole thing. Like, if I surround myself with people that I want to, I call it collecting role models. You know what I mean? Like, so I look at you and I'll go like, man, like, Aaron kills this stuff in this area, man, and like the way he is with his family, like, that's my role model. Okay, what behaviors is he doing on a day-to-day basis? I'm going to learn from you, right? Man, Marcus does this amazingly well. Like, how is he doing this, right? I'm going to collect role models. Oh, this guy in a world of philanthropy, it's so inspiring. Like, what is he doing? Right? I'm going to collect those role models, and I'm going to try to implement and mirror those behaviors into my life. So if you have, and all of us have people around us, and it's not like, here's the thing, right? I've been fortunate enough to, to go to Necker Island and hang out with Richard Branson, and like, spend a lot of time with Gary Vee, and like, just, I mean, a lot of my close friends, and like, shit, like you guys, like, all, I mean, I'm so grateful and fortunate to have so many amazing people around me, right? But I also put a lot of time, effort, and money, because we would go to, where did we meet? Like, we meet through seminars that we invest a lot of money in, right? And a lot of those same people come to those same, and we're like, yeah, you want to get better too, man? Me too.
Yeah.
Right? And you connect
and then
like
it's
that.
also like, and you need to talk to this guy.
Exactly. And it's like, and it speeds all that up.
Yeah.
But it still comes back to, like, let's say you're in, even when I was, I would say in an area where I didn't have those resources, you'd still go like, man, in basketball, like I'd be like, man, like I want to be like that guy, and yeah, I might look at Jordan or Iverson or whatever, but locally I'd go like, man, this dude is so good. And I'd go and like, hey, listen, man, can you show me how you do this thing? Most people will show you, or be like, hey, listen, man, I think you're awesome. Like, would you mentor me, or would you help me out with this, or do you have a book? Like, and that's how it happens. But you have to like really be step number one, like awareness precedes change, right? Like become aware, and before awareness precedes change is assessment precedes awareness, right? So like, hey, listen, I have no money. Why not? Well, it's just, everything's so expensive. Then you look at the bank account. It's like, dude, you're spending a lot of money on like dumb shit. Yeah. Awareness, assessment, so it's saying like
from the dollar store.
Yeah, sure. Dude,
Target, so many dollars.
Bought 1,900 things from the dollar store. Oh, God. And so it's the same thing with food. Like, man, it's got to be my hormones. It's like, okay, let's track your food, right? Like, it's not the hormones. There's a lot of hormones on the plate, and so every one of those, same thing, like relationships, right? Like, man, I do a great job. When's the last time you had date night? How much quality time where you're focused on other person do you spend together? Yeah. And you assess it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's why people don't like to check their bank accounts. That's why people don't like to check their food, because subconsciously there's this fear of like, fuck, I know I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but right. And so you want to have that, once again, those people and those environments in place to create the assessment that precedes the awareness, that gives you now, like, because now, look, at least, here's the thing, right? There's been times in my life where I'm like, you know what? I know I'm fucking not doing great here, and I'm just going to accept that and stop complaining because I'm focused on this.
Yeah.
Right? And, okay, cool. At least you're choosing. Like, you're aware, you're making a choice, you know why you're making a choice, live with it, right? But it's a different story if you're like, oh my God, I'm broke, like I'm not making any money, and you're just complaining, blaming and complaining, and it's like, okay, cool, well, let's assess what's going on. Like, holy shit, like you're spending like 50 hours a week, like just not doing anything. Yeah. You could be focusing on something that'll make you money or build your skill sets, right? And that's, and that step one is the hardest step, right? Yeah. The hardest step is admitting, is accepting, is going like, man, this is the harsh reality. And accepting doesn't mean like I'm okay with it. It just means this is reality, right? It's like Byron Katie, one of the top books that I read was like Byron Katie's, Loving What Is, and she says, when you argue with reality, you lose. You know what I mean? Like you're a reality undefeated, undefeated championship every year, wins it. You know what I'm saying? Like but man, why the fuck is it raining? Listen, man, it's raining.
Yeah. Talk about mental strength, though.
You know what I mean? Like
becoming aware and being able to accept faults or flaws or whatever, and saying, okay, I'm going to be able to change that. That's like the most you can do with mental strength, and most people aren't willing to do that. So just like most people aren't willing to come in here and lift weights, they're not going to be doing that. So how else are they going to change their lives? So,
exactly. And it's like you just, like there's so many. And the other thing too, we're humans are pretty good at compartmentalizing. And I'll tell you, like I'll share with you the thing that like really shifted my coaching. Okay, and I kind of talked about it a little bit over lunch, but I study so much training and nutrition, like the X's and O's of stuff, right? And I trained a lot of my life. I was getting some insanely good results with some high-level athletes and some pretty A-type personalities. And then it was kind of like this gap, where there's just a bunch of people that didn't get results. And I was like, fucking uncommitted, just unbelievable, These guys, like, they can't come in and train hard and eat like this and da-da-da-da, just judging the shit out of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then it took, like, my divorce and my, like, I would say, my behaviors in my marriage and cheating and all those things that were very, very difficult. Like, that was a very difficult time for me. But it woke me, I had this whole thing like, hold on, like, why, like, Susie, who maybe have a tough time changing her nutrition, and I'm like, what the fuck, but here I am doing all types of stupid shit in my life, you know what I mean? Like, from, like I said, whether it's in my relationship, whether it's with my finances, whether it was with partying and this and drugs, whatever, right? Like, and it was like, oh man, like, I have completely fucking got this wrong the whole time. I have the same issue as Susie, but in another area of my life. Yeah. It's the same behavioral issue, but just a different compartment. And that, like, I actually started going, like, why do I do the stupid shit that I do? You know, like, and that's why I started.
Instead of Susie.
Correct. Right. You know, and it was, man, and that's when I started connecting. I started also sharing more, like, even in emails and you know, face-to-face conversations and apologizing to people too. It was like, man, like, you know, I really got it all wrong. Like, matter of fact, I'm struggling with this. And then I start reading every book and course and I mean, I would like just die. And to this day, like, that's one of the things I love studying is our brain, our neurology. Like, I mean, just like, why do we do the things that we do? Because we're so irrational, you know? But that took me down a rabbit hole, and like, man, I became a 10 times better coach over the course of the next 5, 6, 7 years, you know?
Wait, hold on, say that again. You didn't happen overnight?
Oh, did you hear?
It took 5, 6, 7 years?
Oh, did I say years? Sorry, 5, 6, 7 days. Hold on, let's do that again. Slow mo.
I read this book. I went to this program.
Yeah, I mean, but
that's good. Done.
But that's the thing is, it's such a journey, man. Like, I used to have this very, very, as an athlete, you know, when I was studying, I studied religiously, but I was always kind of almost stressed out. Like, I was like, I got to get through everything because I got to know everything. And we know, like, there's no like now it's like I feel dumber than ever. You know, like
the more you learn, the more.
Oh my God, it's just like
it's a terribly awesome feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, but the thing is, once I was just like, I need to fall. Like, I just fell in love with the process. You know, I'm just kind of like,
there's no end.
You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. There is, like, how am I going to know? Like, listen, by the time I learn all this stuff, we're going to learn some new shit.
Amazingly beautiful in itself.
Beautiful. It actually is, like, once you kind of come to grips with it, it is actually the best feeling in the world. Like, I would study if nobody paid me. Like, if I would study if, like, I got, you know, as a result of it, of course, I become better at what I do, and it does over time make me more money.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, but I don't do it for this. I do it for the learning, right? Because here's, you know, what are the three C's that we're intrinsically, Sebastian Junger's Tribes, phenomenal book, right? The 3 C's that drive our internal intrinsic motivation. Number 1 is competence, which is we just love getting better. Like, we love learning. Even a rat likes to get better at getting the cheese. You know what I'm saying? Like, straight up, like, this was in Daniel Pink's Drive, right? Like, the rat just didn't even give a fuck about the cheese anymore. She just wanted to solve the problem faster, right? We have that. Like, we want to be able to learn, and, like, the learning fulfills us in itself. So competence is 1. Number 2 is contribution. Like, it's one of those things, like, man, like, once you can find a lot of meaning.
It's sewn in us.
It's sewn in us. Yes, you cannot rip it apart. There's no way. Like, if I help you out, that I've come through some of the darkest times in my life by helping others. It was like legitimately probably another thing that saved me in my life. You know what I mean? Like, and so contribute, and like, that's why I'm so highly connected to, you know, we've done over 600 charity events here. You know, the badges and barbells, the philanthropy, you name it, right? Like, I mean, we live it, you know. And same thing with teaching. I teach a lot of it because, like, I want to not give back, pay forward. I think I don't have anything to give back. I have to pay it forward. And so contribution is huge. And the last one is connection, which is probably maybe the most important one even, right? Like, without people.
Oh, so you were talking about the whole time, relationship communication.
That's it.
That's it.
Like, everything you ever wanted externally, right? If I give it to you and I take away your kids, your family, your friends, there's nothing. Nothing matters. It's irrelevant, you know. And so you have to remember that. We kind of, you know, in this culture for sure, is like we don't pay attention to the connection. I mean, less than ever. And to me, this is not like, and I'm not against social media and phones or whatever, but like, you know, like, when you go, I still go, you know, home in Europe, like, man, you know, I meet with my brother for coffee, for lunch. We don't ever turn on the TV when we eat. You know, friends get together weekly, sometimes daily. You know, here it's like, I mean, I'm fortunate to have, like, great friends where we spend a lot of time together, but, man, I can't tell you how many people are like, hey, man, we'll see you next month. Why? Do you love hanging out with this person? Yeah. Like, see him more often. Yeah. Oh, we're all busy. I'm fucking sure you are. Watching what? 4.5 hours of TV, which is a statistical
the average.
You know what I mean? Like, so here we are, like, where, you know, we're not really kind of investing in those main intrinsic motivators that we have. And I'll connect this to, I think I probably heard Frank Shamrock talk about this first. That's why I think where I heard it first. but it's relatable.
Two crazy PhDs to the guy that gets punched in the face.
A lot. PhD and punching in the face.
I love that.
And I'm sure he heard it somewhere, but it's like he was like, man, you in life, right? You always got to have somebody that's better than you. So that's your mentor, right? You're so if you're a fighter, obviously, it's like somebody that's beating you up, right? It's teaching you a lot of stuff. They're mentoring you. And, that's the person that you learn from, that you aspire to be like. That's you're collecting a role model. Then the level 2 is the person that's close to where you are. I would relate that to, in fighting, it's like the guy that's like, man, you're always neck and neck, right? They're really challenging you, right? Because they're not too good, but they're not too bad, so you're right there neck and neck. I would relate into real life, that would be your tribe. Right, your tribe, the people you roll with, the
coworkers or family,
or like I said, mastermind groups, or your like I said, your team and work. Those. That's your tribe, right? And then you always got to have somebody that you're better than, like which you're teaching, right? And that is, like I said, that's the student where you're the teacher, right? Now the thing is, if you miss any of those in your life, so if you're getting mentored, but you're never getting challenged, and you're never giving back, then you have all this information, you actually feel very unfulfilled, right? If you're just constantly in your tribe getting challenged, now you're too wired to be competitive and never actually giving back, paying forward, being a go-giver, right? And the thing is, but if you're always just better than somebody, you never can get better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? No, you're stuck. You just have this whole hey, listen, I dropped 20 at the YMCA. You know what I mean? Ooh, great job. And so, I always say, assess, because people are like, no, I'm getting mentorship. I'm like, yeah, but you have all those 3 levels in your life. So you look at those 3 C's that drive our intrinsic motivation, and you go okay, and how do you plug those in now into, whether you have a mentor, whether you have a student, whether you have your tribe. And, the majority of people that I talk to or mentor, and these are the things I talk at the gym. You know what I mean? A lot of times people come here and they're like, man, I heard you guys are the best at training. And then it's a month in, it's yo, what the fuck? Why are you trying to be Tony Robbins and shit? But it's and then they start getting it. It's that nothing lives in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this influences this, and that's where people start buying into it. They go man, you said something, man, I've cried telling stories. People have cried when I told stories because it's real, man. It affects your emotion, and how do we learn? We learn through stories, and we embed into our minds something that becomes emotional, right? That's why you remember 9/11. That's why I remember traumatic things in my life, and you remember probably the birth of your kids, right?
Yeah.
That's stamped. But what did you eat last Tuesday? You don't fucking know. You know what I mean? But it's how do you remember something from that long ago? Because
that emotion, you have these firings, whatever that's going on, and it's thought or whatever, but that emotion just creates this massive wiring.
Why? Correct.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It fuses it all.
The amygdala stamps it, and unfortunately, it stamps pain and fear more. So which is why we are wired to look for problems.
Yeah, PTSD and
absolutely, absolutely, and it's why also once you understand that, you can go hey, but that we can change that. We actually can turn this stuff around. And there's tons of there's not to go into it, but I do I study a lot of the obviously advancements in biology and in science, and we know that things like psilocybin and MDMA, there's a reason why the treatment's working, right? They don't understand everything, but they go man, because it resets the amygdala, right? And in different ways. Or with MDMA, it's you bring trauma to the forefront, but rather than having this massive surge of chemicals that elicit fear and threat, it actually is serotonin bust, and now you can deal with the trauma, right? So, and like I said, why would, I talk about stuff like that here because, I've been through trauma. A lot of people have been through trauma, and it's man, if I can help guide somebody to hey, listen, train here, we're going to help you with nutrition, with your training, but here's this place that you should go maybe and work on some other things, right? I think a lot of coaches are afraid to do that because it's oh man, now they're going to go away from me. Yeah. But if you keep in mind, no, if I want what's best for you and you come to me to help you out, man, even if it means that you stop training with me, I'm still going to send you that way because that's what's best for you, And I think that's kind of the whole intention mindset. I think you see this on social media a lot, right? The intention is I want to have as many followers and likes. And so you create mediocre work, right? But if your intention is I want to create the best work that I can create to give value to the human being, then you'll probably get more followers, right? It's the other way around. It's just that the second one usually takes, more time and more effort, and it's not quick like that. You know what I mean?
So on that, obviously, number one, have you followed? We have gone down many rabbit holes.
Yeah, you need to do timestamps
of a pretty
this.
massive spectrum. We've talked about, what Living Fit is to you, and then we went into even more stuff, right, with specifically the brain and psychology and all of this stuff that is not just the age-old, movement or whatever, right, which is what people think when they think Living Fit normally. So let's finish it. But I just wrote the 52 ways to improve yourself 1% each week. So clearly you've given us probably 50, we could probably count it as probably 52. You've given us additional 52, right? But the thing is, like, nobody's going to be able to apply this, and you didn't apply this in one sitting, right? You didn't sit for a sleepless weekend and figure it all out and learn it all. So what would be, I think I would like to make this a two-pronged question. So it's first, what would be like one of the more powerful or most powerful, if you can think of it, the 1% change that somebody could do, or the 1% adjustment that somebody could do right now, right after listening to this, I can apply this, and this is going to get me, taking that step like you talked about, right? That whether it's assessment or awareness or whatnot. And then two, what is the most common, so maybe it's not the best, but it's the most common 1% or piece of advice that you give. It's just, it doesn't matter where you are, what environment, whether it's in your gym here or whether you're teaching somewhere at in Boeing, right? You're talking about teaching at Boeing, or you're flying around the world teaching, in a different country or whatever. So those two. So one, what's the best? If there is one, and then most common.
Here's what the best one is. The best one is the one that you can do. So I always say, when you're listening to something like this, or, I always say it on my podcast at the end, I say, listen, something stuck out at you for some reason. It'll be different for that person, for that person, for that person. Something was said, and it hit you, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Whatever hit you, and you kind of you either got angry, like, fuck that guy Luka, or, or you got emotional, or you just felt it. That's probably a trigger, right? And it's like, forget about the other stuff. What can you do to move forward in that area? So, like, that's because the thing is, it's very easy to go like, oh, there's 11 different things. No, what's that one thing that hit you, right?
Yeah.
And then do something. Now, what is do something? Tony Robbins talks about this, right? Make an action at the point of decision. So if you're like, I'm going to change this, okay, great. As soon as you stop listening to this, I don't know, call a trainer, set up a first session. Join a group training class. Go for a trial, right? Order your lunch meals from a company that does healthy meals for the next 2 weeks. Right?
Download Audible and get
download Audible. Start listening to a book. Order a book. Like, not the whole. Like the thing is,
Audible.
No, yeah, but it's like you don't do all the steps. Just do the next step, right? Because the thing is, what happens is that, like, when we take action, it creates momentum. But what it does is like, it gives us a win, right? And, like, the problem in this world is that people try to take on such a massive thing that it's impossible to get it done fast. But if you do a small thing, you feel even the energy of the win. I succeeded, right? Like, hey, do this one thing. I did it. Awesome. Then do the next one and do the next one. And I would say, for most people, if you haven't succeeded trying to push and do these massive things, why don't strategically go smaller, right? Like, because it is, even for people that most people look at and go, like, I aspire to be like them. They didn't write a book in 2 weeks. They wrote 500 words every day, 300 words every day. Over the course of a year, that's one full book. Same thing. Like, just get your first workout in. Hey, join an environment. This kind of blends into the second question. I 100% believe that the most powerful thing that you can do is move yourself into a different environment, right? And, like, maybe you can't change your job. That's fine. Yeah. But, like, let's say for training, like, hey, join a gym. Like, go to a book club. Go eat at a cafe that has all healthy foods and options versus, like, all processed foods, right? Like, you can do that today, right? And the kicker about that is that, like, I kind of lost my train of thought there because I was going to connect it. But it takes a lot of time sometimes to deal with things like trauma and belief systems and stuff like that, right? But, I mean, we've over and over and over and over again, statistically, it shows that the fastest way to change a behavior is to change the environment. because environments trigger behaviors, right? So, and so why would you not do the kind of like the simplest, easiest step to get the biggest result, right? So I would say, like, whatever it is that pulls you, like, you know, that you were hit by, and like, man, like do that, like go into that environment and like figure out what that environment is. Even work, like for instance, right? I figured out like there's certain places that like I'm way more creative and chiller. I put my headphones on and like, you know, it's like, why would I be fighting like the environment of too much noise, people constantly coming in asking me questions, but I'm trying to do focused work? It's crazy. But now if I go into this, you know, noise canceling headphones, like Zen atmosphere, you know, I'm doing work and like I get way more done. Put myself in that environment. Leave the gym. Go to Boona Coffee, where I go sometimes, you know, to work, and I get more done. Right?
Oh, now they know, dude. They're gonna. Oh,
they know. Like, oh, that's my people.
I can't find them. I'm going straight to Boona.
But it's. I think that like one is just like, you know, I would say, look, if you listen to, you know, this 52 every week, you listen to one, right, and you just take one step. In a year, it'll take 52 steps. That's that's massive change.
Massive.
Like just one big habit like sleep. You fix that, it could legitimately alter your life. You know, more energy, you're nicer to people, your hormones improve, you get leaner, you get stronger, just because you fix sleep. But fixing sleep is a bunch of different habits that you know, you have to go sleep earlier, you know, it's a roll effect. But the thing is, like, just start and like check it off. Like, I'm a big fan of like, man, see it, like have a calendar, put a big red X, you know, like that you did the thing. And here's the thing. PN has this magic question that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can do this 90% of the time, right? And if you're a 9 or a 10, you have confidence to do it. Great, let's go ahead with this. If you're a 7, you're not very confident. Now we have to either, hey, what would get you to a 9 or 10? Or even more likely, let's make it a smaller step until you are very confident. Because science proves and shows that if we are not confident that we can achieve it, we won't, because we won't have the behaviors to do it. Like kids, that's a kid. They did all these studies on kids, right? When a kid says, "I'm not good at math, I'm not going to pass this test," they don't study, so then it makes them not good at math.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Correct,
right?
absolutely. And so, why not?
Belief, like you said before, belief will drive behavior as well, just as much as environment will drive behavior.
More than anything, like you know, because it's like, your mindset is an ecosystem of beliefs, and then your belief system like really drives a lot of this stuff, right? So, you know, and that's kind of like a whole thing that we could go into. But the point of that being is that like you're always, like, success breeds success. If I tell you to do 10 things, you do 2. Even though you did 2 things, you're like, oh man, I only did 2 out of 10. I'm a failure. But if you go like, hey, listen, here's this small thing to do, and you do it, and you go like, well, that was easy, I'm gonna do another one. Now you asked to do 1, but you did 2. You feel like a winner. And like, winning breeds winning. Success breeds success mentally, right? Like, you're stacking these, I would say, credits in your self-esteem bank account, you know. But like every time you go like, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to go on a detox diet, I'm going to stick to it for 30 days. And then you keep falling off. Now that's debits in your self-esteem bank account. And like, people do that so long that they go broke. In self-esteem. And they don't believe themselves anymore, right? And the only way to fix that is to start stacking these small credits and building that momentum.
Did you write that down?
That's the definition of self-esteem. You know what I mean? Like, and when you do that, like, man, it really alters stuff. You know, like, and even like for somebody to even have 7 days of like little wins, man, ask them how they feel. They'll be like, yo, man, I'm feeling great. I'm on a roll. You just got to be careful to not then go like, I can fucking do it. I'm going to train 7 days a week, and I'm going to go, you know, cut all my carbs out and whatever, you know, crazy shit like.
So Marcus just taught today, and he was talking about that. It's like a lot of these hard skills, right, that we learn, these super complex movements. Oftentimes it's like step, huge gap that you got to jump. Oh, you've got it. And it's like, and we wonder why we get so banged up. It's like, well, if somebody could come in, a coach or a mentor or whatever, give you those additional steps, it's like, man, the success rate would just be out, you know,
and the thing is,
out the roof.
If you look at like if you're here and whatever your next success is, like bigger success is here, there's a bridge to it. And every kind of like plank on that bridge is a thing you have to learn, an environment you got to put yourself in, or a person that you have to surround yourself with. You know what I'm saying? Like that's literally what it is. And it's like, you don't need to know all the steps, but it's like, what's the next book? Okay, cool. I'm going to do some stuff here. Okay, let me go to this course or seminar or training. Okay, cool. I met this person, right? And you're just going across that bridge step by step. You get to the side, you're mountaintop B, and then you see mountaintop C. And and it goes forever. You know what I mean? Like it's like
I like that visual. I like that.
And it's like where was that? Like for one of the jiu-jitsu guys to say, it's like BJJ. It's like he said, can you explain BJJ to me? It's like you do this and I do that, and you do this and I do that, and you do this and I do that. Forever. I mean, that's and I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And that's, I mean, honestly, and like that right there replace BJJ with learning. Yeah, like that's it. It's forever.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
Well, hey guys, this is Living.Fit. This is Luka right here in Renton, Washington. If you haven't been here, you need to come here. Not just to see him, but to see the environment that he has created.
Absolutely,
absolutely incredible. We're going to turn this recording off and probably continue talking for the next 5 days. So I'm
going to go take that first couple steps. I'm going to go surround myself. I'm going to cut out people. One of my kids is a little toxic, so I'm going to cut her out.
Marcus is like, hold on. Yo, I'm done with you.
We're done.
You're out. You're out.
Sorry, Luka told me. I can't do it anymore. I tell you one thing, Luka's going to get more
So, Luka, thank you so much. My
pleasure, man.
Absolutely honored to sit next to you, even more honored to listen to you. And, I know there's a ton of people out there that aspire to have some of the things that you do well. We know now that your room is a disaster, and we forgive you for that.
We're going.
But I aspire to some of those things as well. And I appreciate that because you have helped me and will continue to help me level up.
Thank you guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. This is, it's fun. This is probably the conversation we'd legitimately have.
Exactly.
We just recorded
which is why I love, because it truly is what it is. But man, thank you for anybody that's listening. Hey, listen, do something.
Boom.
Right there.
Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow-along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to Living.Fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.